have all heard in the news, Kermit Gosnell has been found guilty. And Stacy Woolman, I find it interesting that this purveyor of death gets a sentence of life.
Yeah.
Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's really interesting how this particular case and exposing the terrible harm and the death that these babies had to go through at his hand, how for a brief while anyway, it wasn't even covered on mainstream media. Then they had no other choice but to start covering it. How so many people across our country realized how babies are being tortured and killed, and
Yes.
I think it's brought a level of awareness. Certainly has in my day-to-day conversations when I'm out and I say what we do at CareNet to prevent and to help women see options to choose life, to empower them, to see that there's resources in the community that they could do this. They can parent their child. They could place with a loving option of adoption. They don't have to choose abortion. That's not their only option.
You know, the interesting thing to me about this, Stacy, is that as certainly as the mainstream media tried to avoid the coverage of the Gosnell murder trials, and then finally relented and reported, it's almost that quickly disappeared.
Oh, yes.
And my concern is that it also would have a tendency to disappear from the minds and hearts of Americans.
Right.
Because you and I know every 26 seconds in America, another little child is murdered in the womb.
Right, and it doesn't, a child that's murdered or abducted as a toddler in a community, or I think of the gals in the media just recently who had been abducted and held for years, just
horrible.
terrible things. We have some real evil in our world, and I believe that abortion is not health care. It's an evil that in the most sacred of places, the protection of the womb designed by God to nurture and to help human beings become all that they need to be physically so that they can impact their world as they grow, because that's really the only difference between conception and you and I today. It's just time. Because at conception we had everything that we needed. We knew at conception all of our development, who we were going to be, happened at conception. And so the only difference between a baby conceived in the womb today and you and I is time.
You know, I have watched these proceedings in this trial with keen interest, and the question that's been on my mind that I would ask our, quote, pro-choice viewers is this: would you agree that it's inappropriate, unacceptable to kill a child when they're 5 years old? Well, absolutely it's inappropriate.
Right.
Is it inappropriate at 1 year old? Absolutely it's inappropriate. Well, so then is it inappropriate to kill a child 10 seconds before birth? Is it inappropriate 1 month before birth? You decide. When is it really appropriate to kill a child?
Well, and there's
the answer is never.
Never, and there's some medical technology now that has developed. There was just recently in the news a woman who was they were trying to get her to have an abortion because the baby was developing outside of the womb.
Which is very, very unusual.
And it's unusual, and it's medically dangerous for the mother.
If there is a high-risk pregnancy, that would
be it. And the mother chose life for her child, and they were able to deliver the child, of course, after the viability stage of the development, and then they were able to also help the mother. But it was just really interesting.
So mother and baby are fine.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Exactly. And so with our advancement in medical technology and the ability to detect things so early in the womb, and help even do surgeries and things, that there really is an ability for these moms to choose life for their children, and we as a community really need to raise the standard. And even though it's going away or never really was in the media, we as believers and those of us that follow Christ, he calls us to choose life so that you and your descendants may live.
Yes.
The blessings or cursings, we're going to choose the blessings. And so it's really important that we do all we can to be life-minded and to put all of our time and energy and resources into protecting life.
Well said. I want to encourage our listeners, even as you're sitting there right now, pray for Stacy Woolman and the CareNet Pregnancy Resource Center. Take time to go on their website and make a generous contribution. You can impact lives forever.